Manchester United scare me. Now, that's probably not something you'd expect to be hearing an Arsenal fan saying 9 games into the season. And I also think the reasons I'm going to explain aren't what you're thinking. I don't expect United to go on and challenge for the title, rival us for the title. But at the end of the day, Manchester United are Manchester United. They are one of, if not the biggest club in the world. In my opinion, the biggest club in the Premier League. And the reason that they scare me is because they have the tools now and the players to go and do something that we expect Man United to do. And by that I mean, this current squad is way better than what we saw last season. They finished 15th, they got to a Europa League final. This squad and these players are way better than 15th. I don't think it takes a genius to figure that out or to understand that. And also this manager, Ruben Amorim's had a lot of stick, a lot of criticism. This is a guy that came in last year when he didn't want to come in. He actually wanted to wait until the summer. But obviously they sacked Ten Hag and they rushed Ruben Amorim in to a job and a squad that was just all over the place. And he was then trying to implement his style halfway into a Premier League season. It was never going to work out last year. So, and I know it sounds crazy because a club the size of Manchester United, but you almost have to write off last season. If you don't have a pre-season and a transfer window under your belt, how is it fair to judge a manager? And Amorim is also a manager that was a winner. He won Sporting Lisbon their first league title in, 20 years. I'm pretty sure he won it 2 times in a row. So he came in with a reputation. Some of the players that he improved and sold on were obviously top quality players. So I think it's fair to judge him from now, from the start of this season. He's had a transfer window. And I want to talk about that quickly because the transfer window that he had was, in my opinion, very, very good. Some of the attacking players especially. Look, and Burmo on the right is a player that scored 20 Premier League goals last season for Brentford. Don't get me wrong, Thomas Frank is a great manager for getting attacking return out of players, as we've seen. But 20 goals for any Premier League club, especially a lower, a mid-table Premier League club like Brentford is impressive. And Burmo is a very good player and a very good signing. Same for Cunha. He was Wolves' best player. People considered him one of the best players outside the top 6. Now he plays for Manchester United. Now we've seen him score his first goal against Brighton. He's only going to kick on. He is only going to get better. And Benjamin Sesko, whatever you want to say about him, he's technically a very good player. He might not be the best finisher. He might not be the best, one-on-one attacker or clinical finisher. But what he does do in terms of hold-up play, flick-ons, he keeps the ball very well, shields it very well. To bring other players like Cunha and Burmo and Mason Mount into the game is great. That front line now, and Burmo, Sesko, Cunha, or maybe Mason Mount comes in instead of Sesko. That's a good front line. That's a very high quality front line. If you can get the best out of those players, that's a top 4 front line. And then I'm just looking at their team against Brighton now. You look behind them. Bruno Fernandes on his day I think is world class. Amad Diallo is a top quality player, just needs to add a bit more consistency. Maybe Dallo, who's playing left wing back, it could be improved. I'm still a fan of Patrick Dorgu on the left hand side. Casemiro, I think they'll need an upgrade in the summer on him, but he's been good this season. He's a Brazil international, still playing for the Brazil national team. And then the back line, I think, is really good. I look at De Ligt, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. Lenny Euro is obviously young, but again, a top talent. Harry Maguire can come into that. Luke Shaw can play. On his day, Luke Shaw's still a very good player. And then the goalkeeper was obviously a problem for a long time, Onana was obviously just not good enough. Bayindir, again, not good enough. And now they actually have a goalkeeper in Lamens who can come in and do a job. He doesn't have to be world class. He doesn't have to be the best keeper in the league. He doesn't have to keep 20 clean sheets a season. Just do a job. Just save shots that you're supposed to save. Don't kick it to the opposition. Don't kick it out of play. Do you know what I mean? Just do the basics. If you can be a decent keeper in the Premier League for a good side, that's sometimes all you need right now. United fans weren't crying out for the best keeper in the world. They're just crying out for a keeper that can do the basics. And the reason they scare me, the title of this video, the reason I'm making this video, is because I now see signs of Manchester United getting back to the Manchester United that we know. Manchester United that are one of the biggest and best clubs in the world, can have one of the best, and strongest squads in the league. Because like I said, that front line is dangerous. Diallo and Bruno Fernandes in that midfield, or as a wing-back and a midfielder, I think are good enough. If you can add, a Baleba in there, maybe another wing-back, And then De Ligt and Euro again, I think, are good enough. And then if you can add another centre-back and maybe, I don't know, we're still yet to see on Lamens. He might be the top quality keeper that they need, or they might need an upgrade. But for me, that team, if I'm looking at that team that played Brighton on paper, I'm thinking that's a top 6 team, maybe pushing for top 4. If you add a couple of, 3 or 4 top quality players in there, that's a top 4 team, maybe pushing for top 3, top 2. And do you know what I mean? And that's if you add in January, then you add in next summer. If you give Amorim 2 or 3 years with this squad, with what he's already got and what, the spending power we know Manchester United have, whether, sometimes they lie about it, sometimes they say, we've got to sack this person and we can't afford this, but then they go and spend £200 million on their front line. We know they have money. This is Manchester United. When it comes to the transfer window, they will upgrade the team. I'm a little bit worried because I'm seeing the foundations of something that, if it's built upon for a couple of years, can be back to the levels that we know they once were. Maybe I'm wrong. I kind of hope I'm wrong because I don't want them to rival Arsenal. I don't like Manchester United. I think a lot of the criticism they get is a bit too much, because it's United, people want to talk, they're going to get clicks and views. But I've been saying this for a while, even that first game of the season, they played Arsenal. Arsenal, obviously one of the favourites to go on and win the Premier League. They were better than us. I know it was away at Old Trafford, which is always a big place to go, and United do get up for these big games, sometimes more than they get up for the smaller games. But they were good, you could see a clear plan. They dominated the midfield, which is something they rarely do. You saw the quality in the front line. Obviously, Arsenal's defence is very good, so it's always going to be hard to score against us. And on that day, they were unlucky not to beat us. And unlucky to lose. Maybe a draw or a United win would have been fair from that game. But there are signs. And now, 3 wins in a row. Obviously beat Liverpool at Anfield. Now they just beat Brighton. Let's just have a look at their next few games. Because if they can go on a bit of a run now, I think they can prove that they are, I'm not going to say back, but actually, still a force in this Premier League, can challenge for that top 6, for that top 4. And I think a lot of United fans, if I was a United fan, I'd probably be believing now that, especially with 1 game a week, no Europe, that we can go on and do some damage in this Premier League. Nottingham Forest away. Obviously, Forest are in terrible form. Just brought in Sean Dyche, they could win that. Tottenham away. You don't know what you're going to get from Tottenham. Look, if Manchester United play how they played against Arsenal on that first day of the season at Spurs, they could beat Spurs. Everton at home, they could win. Palace away, who are in bad form now, haven't won in 3. They could beat them. West Ham at home, they could win. Wolves away, they could win. Bournemouth at home, that might be a tough game. But do you know what I mean? Go and pick up 4 out of 6 wins in the next 6 games and see where you're at. I think this United team isn't in a bad place. I think so much has been made of them being, like I said, the banter club and awful. I think we now got to start taking them seriously again. I think Amorim can cut his teeth in the Premier League, can prove that he's a winner. With a few more transfer windows from what they've already added, I think they could actually be a very good team in this Premier League. But it just takes consistency. If they go and lose to Forest and then lose to Spurs, all of a sudden everyone's going to be on their back again. So win games and the conversations will be different. If I was a Manchester United fan, I'd be quietly confident about my team right now.